Welcome, everybody, to Morning Fuel. I'm going to remind everybody, as usual, your cameras are turned off, your mics are off, and we encourage everybody to use the chat function. We're very, very fortunate to have our own Matt Pinnell here, our Lieutenant Governor, and I'm just going to hand it off to Brooke and give a little background. Everybody knows him, but give him a little background, and then we'll get going.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for being here this morning. We've been looking forward to this for a while. Appreciate your participation in some of the Alliance events over the past year, and look forward to seeing you out there wearing the brand again. So thank you very much for that. Folks, Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell was elected as the 17th Lieutenant Governor of the state of Oklahoma in 2018. In that role, he serves as president of the Oklahoma State Senate and as a member of multiple constitutional boards and commissions. Lieutenant Governor Pinnell also serves as the secretary for, let me see if I can get this right, the new name, Tourism, Branding, Wildlife, and Heritage. The Secretary for Tourism, Branding, Wildlife, and Heritage, in addition to serving as an advisor to the Department of Commerce, focusing on small business opportunities, as well as Oklahoma's opportunity zones. Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll just open it up with, if you have anything to say at the top, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, Burke, thank you first off for your leadership, friendship. David, thank you. Mr. President, I think is what you like to be referred to as. We really do appreciate the oil and gas industry. I want you to know that. I know it's easy for me to say that as I'm addressing Morning Fuel, but as David said and Burke, you said, I think I know most people that are probably watching right now, and I count them as friends. You really do literally fuel the economy in the state of Oklahoma. The oil and gas industry across the country, but I'm Lieutenant Governor in Oklahoma, so I care about the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma is priority number one for me. It is very difficult for us to do what we want to do as a state. And the directive from our governor is to be a top 10 state. I want to be a top 10 state too. I want to be on all the good lists, not the bad lists. Well, for us to do that, we have to have a strong oil and gas industry. You all have to be healthy. We have to have your back inside this state capital and across our 77 counties. So I want to reinforce that. I think you know how passionate I am about this industry, what it helps us do for everyone else across the state of Oklahoma, and the jobs that it creates. I say this all the time inside of this building. We got to keep the big thing, and that is private sector job growth in the state of Oklahoma. We have 3.9 million of 4 million people in the state of Oklahoma. We just counted everybody, and I hope you filled out the census. Don't tell me if you didn't fill out the census, but just think about that. We got 4 million people in the state. That state to the south of us, which some of you all may do some business down there, okay? There's 29 million people down there today. So there's twice as many people in the Dallas Metroplex area than the entire state of Oklahoma. No, I don't want 29 million people in Oklahoma, but I'll take 5 million. Because if we can get to 5 million, we can pick up another congressional seat. And so over the next 10 years, for us to really grow the way that we want to grow, it's going to take the oil and gas industry really leading the way. Continuing to lead the way, continuing to be the top industry in our state, one of the largest job producers in the state as well. That is going to get us to be a top 10 state. That is what is going to create more private sector jobs in the state, which will help us, again, create another congressional seat when we count everybody again 10 years from now.
Lieutenant Governor, it's refreshing to hear you say that. You and I have talked offline a little bit about how our viewpoint of the highly specialized oil and gas economy in Oklahoma is different from how some younger folks think of it. The Millennial Generation, you were the youngest, I think, state chairman when you took over the Oklahoma State Republican Party in 2010. Yep. And you have some very creative thinking about how we talk about these things with the Millennial Generation.
Yeah. Brooke, I'm glad you brought this up. I mean, I'm talking a whole lot about this today, recently. Part of the reason is I'm raising 4 kids, okay? And I have a 15-year-old daughter, Jesus, take the wheel, right? Those of you all that are raising kids. And she's addicted to this, okay? She's on this 24/7. So are her friends. I watch them. I listen to them as I'm driving them around the state of Oklahoma. And it is fascinating to listen to them. They're being raised today in a country that is different than when I was raised, and I'm only 41. And I know there's probably a lot of nodding heads right now of those that are raising kids in the culture that they are being raised in right now. And, she's lucky. She doesn't know that she's lucky, but we tell her that she's lucky that she sits around a dinner table every night with a mom and a dad that are asking her, what are you learning at your public school today? We love public schools. We got all 4 of our kids are at Jinx Public Schools, but we're asking them every day, what are you learning today? What are you learning on all these apps? I don't even know what half of these things are, but we track them, of course. And one of the things that I'm discovering is what she believes the oil and gas industry is. And so my point to you here is this: culture is downstream. Politics is downstream from culture. Okay, let me repeat that. Politics is downstream from culture. So what we're seeing in our political environment today, and I have operated in all 50 states. I was the state chairman in Oklahoma. Then I went on to run the RNC with Reince Priebus in the 2014 and 2016 cycle. So we took back the United States Senate in 2014 and then helped elect President Trump in 2016. I've been in every state working on particularly having the back of this industry, because this is a battle that we're waging across every state. But kids being raised in this country today, and my daughter's not a millennial. I mean, it is a newer generation that's even going to be a larger voting bloc than even millennials are. And that it starts in a cultural fight. And so my message to you would be, yes, continue to support good public servants and good elected officials in the state of Oklahoma. But if we don't like how our industry, and I say our industry, is being portrayed in movies, television shows, podcasts, and everything in between, then we need to get in that space. We need to make our own documentaries, which there are some being started. I'm starting to see more of these pop up, but you can go to Netflix and I can be watching a movie with my kids that completely portrays the oil and gas industry as evil. I was watching a movie with them a couple of weeks ago, and it was about Bigfoot or something, and it had this terrible oil and gas executive. And so you all know this, but we got to be in that space, and I think we got to be more aggressively in that space. Now, the Petroleum Alliance in Oklahoma gets this. Brooke and I have talked about this. You all are in this space, but it is extremely important to be talking to those next generations, getting in middle schools, getting in high schools, and yes, of course, colleges, but a lot of times it's too late if we start with someone who's in college. So I could be on my soapbox for a very long time about this point, Brooke, but I know you all are doing these things, but I would continue to have conversations in your alliance about further ways that you can engage in this space, because it's a cultural fight that we are in right now in America.
Well, it begins at an early age, and we've seen Nickelodeon programming that has the dastardly oil and gas executive portrayed to 4, 5, 6-year-olds. And you became politically aware at a pretty young age as well. My recollection is that you have said that your toughest race was the race for class president in 5th grade, correct?
Fifth grade, Lee Elementary, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Still the toughest race. Well, maybe not. Running a statewide race and having to raise a bunch of money, running for lieutenant governor was kind of hard. But yes, I started at an early age, 5th grade.
So tell us a little bit about that race. Do you remember did you have a campaign slogan?
Pinnell for president, of course. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. And it really was. My mom still has, the scrapbook of this. There was just a number of other really good kids running. I think that's what I remember. And I've always loved, being around people. I'm a people person, but that was the beginning. You had to give a big speech in front of the whole elementary. And I think I said I was going to, install more water fountains or something that kids really thought was really funny. And that's probably why I won. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Oral Roberts University.
Yes.
The political bug stayed with you. And now as lieutenant governor, what are your challenges as lieutenant governor? The toughest part about your job?
Yeah, again, my background, helping people get elected office. My wife and I run a small business down in the Tulsa area, due in large part to my wife, who's an inventor and entrepreneur. We're kind of in the baby product manufacturing business. We We make baby hammocks for shopping carts. My wife invented that, and a number of other baby products. So we were running a business. I was doing politics, but saw this lieutenant governor position that really spoke to me. I really believe we need a sales and marketing director for the state. I don't think we brag about all the good things that happen in the state of Oklahoma. Again, that state to the south of us has been bragging for decades about how great they are. I think we're better. I think it's a better quality of life here. I think we have more freedom here, and we need to be talking about those things. So those were reasons why I did get into the race. The hardest thing, because I jumped into the deep end on this deal, it never had run for political office before, ran straight for lieutenant governor, is just learning how state government works. I think Governor Stitt may have some similar stories. It's a different language. I mean, it truly is. You have hundreds, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of state employees that you're managing. When I became Secretary of Tourism in my role, and so I'm overseeing an entire state agency with thousands of employees all across the state of Oklahoma, and millions of dollars that we have to manage. So, learning how state government works is still something that we are learning. Learning how the state capitol works. I kind of got some of that because I'd worked with a lot of state reps and a lot of state senators. But just kind of learning the language of state government, how that works. We have some amazing state government employees, but it's a different world. Going from the private sector to state government, inside of state government, it is very different. And we're still learning there. I think we're doing a pretty good job this session. But there was a learning curve there.
So when you're out going around the state, all within the borders, talk to us about what people are saying to you as you're visiting with them.
Well, the first thing they tell me is thank you for keeping Oklahoma open. I hear that across 77 counties. Just so thankful that Oklahoma is one of the first states to reopen. Listen, every state has been ravaged by this global pandemic, but the governor took a path to open the state back up early, and that did save a lot of companies around the state of Oklahoma. So I'm also very involved at the Department of Commerce. I'm one of the 5 kind of executive board members over there, advisor in an advisory role, but really on a daily basis, I'm having conversations with Brent Kissling, Scott Mueller, our new Secretary of Commerce. It was Sean Copeland, figuring out how we're going to create jobs in the state, right? That's the other big part of my job. And so I crisscross 77 counties talking to small business owners a lot. And certainly, my first question is there anything we're doing inside of this building that is prohibiting you of hiring someone tomorrow? And if we are, then I want to know about it so that I can get up here and we can fix it. And so we have a lot of questions in regards to that. But there has been, yes, a lot of thank yous. Now, certainly people have questions about mask policies and vaccinations, of course, those type of things. And I'm happy to have any and all of those conversations with people. But I think the overarching theme that I'm hearing is, hey, thank you for deeming my business essential. We wanted to keep the doors open. We wanted to do it in a safe way. But we're hearing a lot of that. And I certainly hope it helps us leapfrog maybe a few states around us that are still not open. You got states where kids still aren't in school, which, kids are just losing an entire year of schooling, which is a whole other issue that leads to a lot of very negative ramifications. So that's really what we're hearing. Hey, thanks for getting kids, helping to push to get kids back in school and making sure that I can still operate my business in the state of Oklahoma.
And so over the past year, I imagine that presented some additional challenges as you are now just a couple months beyond or a month beyond rolling out the new state brand. Talk to us a little bit about that and the challenges of coming up with the state brand and how it's being rolled out.
Yeah. Another good question, Brooke. I mean, the governor and I both recognized that, again, going back to being the sales and marketing director for the state, Oklahoma is better than okay, but that's been our brand. We put it on the license plate for far too long. If we just tell our kids and we tell each other that Oklahoma is just okay, then guess what? We're going to accept mediocrity as a state. And I am done with accepting mediocrity as a state. I think we should demand excellence. I think our taxpayers should demand excellence from everything from government services to welcome signs, because it all matters. Because when I see, again, that state to the south of us, the first impressions department down there is really good. And I think we should be just as good. And now we're better. And so really the overarching really theme for doing a new brand was that people across the country and across the world think we're still a dust bowl. They don't think we're diverse. They think it's a backward state. And none of those things are true. We're very innovative. We're very diverse in both our landscape and in our people. We're better than okay. And it is the best state to start a business. This is a wonderful state where entrepreneurs, young and old, can thrive and can make a difference, early on. And we really saw a lot of that with the Tulsa Remote Program that was launched about, a year or two ago. People were coming to Tulsa because they thought they could make a difference in Tulsa. It wasn't just about a $10,000 check to relocate to the community. You get that feeling when you come to Oklahoma, when you visit Oklahoma. And that's why I'm so big on our tourism industry, because it's the front door to all the rest of the economic development that we want. But when we can get people to Oklahoma, we sell really well, but we got to get people here first. And that branding now helps us tell that story. That's really what that brand was for. And so now you have uniform branding through all of our government agencies. So that's not a hot mess anymore. And it definitely was. You had 200 government agencies that all had their own logo and spending taxpayer dollars doing that, by the way. And so we've saved millions of dollars by just having kind of a uniform brand around what we can rally behind. And so we're proud of it. And we hope it leads to economic development. I mean, it's not a tourism brand. It's a commerce brand that we hope to really leverage. Imagine living in Oklahoma. An oil and gas company in Houston. Those employees that have an hour and a half commute to and from work every day, it's getting pretty tight down there. The politics are changing down there. Hey, come home. Because a lot of those are Oklahomans, as you all know. It's time to come home. We got plenty of space for you. And that message can and does resonate when we're having those conversations with oil and gas companies south of us.
Great.
Well, that begs the question about blue state migration, Matt. Are we going to see that?
We're not. I don't think we're seeing it yet. But as we recruit more people to the state of Oklahoma, as rural Oklahoma, and you saw it, David, over the last 10 years, and just the migration inside the state of Oklahoma. You had people leave rural Oklahoma, move into those cities. I continue to be convinced it's about the candidate at the end of the day. Good candidate recruitment still matters. And if you have candidates running for the right reasons that fit the positions, I think candidate recruitment, unfortunately, is overlooked sometime, and it focuses too much on the money, and money does matter. But I think candidate recruitment, if we recruit the right, conservative candidates for the right districts, I think we're going to be okay. And also, I think what you're seeing across the country today, we are having more conversations with companies, and yes, California, New York, and everywhere in between, but particularly those coasts that have just said enough is enough. I'm out of here. I'm tired of boarding up my business. I'm tired of being attacked. I'm tired of my industry being attacked. And they are now looking at the middle of America. Now they're looking at a whole lot of other states in middle of America. It's not just Oklahoma, but we have companies proactively calling us saying, hey, tell us about the quality of life in Oklahoma. Tell us about your state, because we're out of here. We're getting out of name the city. And so that's an opportunity for us. But yes, can it change the politics? It can. But a lot of the companies that have relocated to Oklahoma, they want to get away from the politics as well. That's what we are seeing so far. But yeah, I mean, the amount of growth that we're seeing in Dallas and Houston area has changed their politics a little bit. We're seeing the same thing in the Atlanta area as well. It's one of the fastest growing areas in the entire country. But I think if we continue to lead well, and do it in a conservative, pragmatic way, I think we will continue to be able to elect good conservatives here in the state.
Let's talk a little bit about the Biden administration. We've had a question come in on the chat line regarding energy tax credits, the federal policies that we're seeing roll out of Washington, D.C. now. The industry recognizes that it's under assault for the next 4 years, and a reversal of the Trump administration policies on U.S. energy independence and U.S. energy dominance as a geopolitical tool. You want to talk a little bit about what you're seeing at the national level, and think about as well about state policies and the interplay there.
Yeah, I always, when I get that question, I always kind of, hey, I told you so. And I know the industry probably is telling a lot of, their friends and colleagues, I told you so. Listen, no president's perfect. But what President Trump did in those 4 years was helpful, not hurtful to our industry. And there's going to need to be a real concerted effort, an alliance, as you all have, power in numbers, and support from voters is going to be extremely important over the next 2 to 4 years to push back of what you are going to see, and you are going to see it, as you said, Brooke. This is an administration that is not friendly to this industry, and we knew it. We tried to tell people about it before that November election, but there's going to need to be a concerted effort across 50 states. And again, I think it's so important to get moms and dads and really voters in targeted districts across Oklahoma, but in these targeted U.S. House races and Senate races in 2 years, leading, of course, yes, into a next presidential election, which is going to be very competitive, by the way. But first things first, there's a lot of races that we could pick up and need to pick up in these midterm elections. And so get that list. And I know, Brooke can put that, probably already has it on a sheet of paper. Where can you all be effective? Where can you all help? And making sure that makeup in Washington, D.C. is more supportive, because that's where the pushback is going to have to be ultimately when we talk about federal policy. And yes, making sure we have good attorney generals. We got a good one, obviously, in Oklahoma. I think the attorney general network are Republican generals across the country, and they already have. They've rallied and pushed back with some lawsuits. They're going to have to continue to do that over the next 4 years. But it's very important that we also target some general races around the country if those are on your all's radar.
That's a great point. And the Petroleum Alliance of Oklahoma and our members understand how critical it is for us to lean in. Obviously, we don't want to talk too specifically about any political races since you're in the Capitol building right now, but we're thinking along those terms, filling up our own war chests, our pack, making certain that our wildcatters are involved and engaged and are looking down the road with us too.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, fill this building up, though. I want those wildcatters up here. I want those hard hats up here. I want them up here. But man, fill this place up with small business owners that are impacted positively by the oil and gas industry. Mm-hmm. Fill this place up with moms and dads that want to make sure their schools are still funded. I mean, that's what you all do. You fuel this economy, and making sure that people inside this building get it, and they better. But pulling in those inside the private sector that benefit so much from the oil and gas industry is also going to be really real strategic for you all to be doing over the next few years too.
So we've talked about the need to lean into 2022. We've talked a little bit about urban versus rural. We're seeing that division in the state of Oklahoma as well. You know how that is playing out. We've talked a little bit about culture. We're in this place where there's been the bipolarization of politics. And so this cancel culture debate is ongoing right now. It's like a live round every morning when you look at your news. Talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be pretty blunt about it, Brooke. I firmly believe it's going to backfire. This cancel culture, you're already seeing it with Major League Baseball, with them pulling out of the Atlanta area. I believe it will backfire ultimately. I think there'll be candidates lose elections because of it. Because practical, common sense Americans on both sides of the aisle, by the way, are looking at this, and they know it doesn't pass the smell test, a lot of it. Do we need to have a national conversation on some of these issues? Of course we do. But when you, and I was pulling up this article, when you have a oil and gas company in Colorado that is trying to get some North Face jackets for their company, and North Face says, we're not going to fulfill that order for you because we don't support your industry. And then I loved what the oil and gas industry in Colorado, they gave them an award, right? And you know this, Brooke, we've talked about this. But I am totally here for this kind of content. This is what oil and gas associations need to be doing. They gave them the Extraordinary Customer Award because all of their North Face jackets that they sell, they're made with nylon, polyester, and polyurethane, all of which come from what? Petroleum. That's the campaign effort that your association, your alliance across every other state. Because when my 15-year-old daughter sees that on her iPhone, she starts asking questions. Well, hold on here. I didn't know that. She knows it because she's got a daddy that tells her. But that I really do. I firmly believe that what's going on federally, they're going to overreach here. And I'll tell you, I've been surprised by how quickly they've tried to do this. But Brooke, I think one of the reasons why is I think they know the midterm election is coming. A reckoning, I think, is going to be coming in those elections, and they're not going to have the kind of majorities that they have 2 years from now. So they are trying to kind of force a little bit here, and it's not good when either side does that, frankly. So I think common sense, Democrats, independents, and Republicans are going to win the day here in a couple of years. We'll see, and then you're going to have a very, 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 very competitive presidential election because of it.
Let me switch back.
We speculate on that all the time, Matt, about I do believe that they're trying to grant. The speed tells you a lot about what they think the House is going to look like. But I think something important that's going on just recently, I was kind of waiting and watching to see when they would start getting aggressive about filling the judiciary holes that we have. And that is indicative of maybe the Senate is not a lock for them, for the Democrats, I should say. And so to me, when they start doing that, it's more indicative of where their heads are really at than what they say. So
yeah, I mean, Joe Manchin's probably the most powerful man in Washington, right now. And his oil and gas all those oil and gas employees, and yes, coal in West Virginia. You don't think they're having conversations with him every day? I mean, Joe knows. Joe Manchin, that is. Manchin knows the amount of employees that you talk about fueling an economy in West Virginia. I mean, it's everything they pull from that ground, including coal. So, I talked about keeping the big thing, and that's private sector jobs. Making sure that these representatives and United States senators remember where their jobs are in their districts will be very important to push back, and it really will again be pushing back and really stopping some of those things that they're going to try to do to our industry here over the next 4 years.
Let me ask a question first inside the building. What issues are you watching closely as president of the Senate?
Yeah. So I guess good point. I am constitutionally president of the Senate. So when there's a tie in the state Senate, I have the T-shirt that says this: if there's a tie, I win. Okay. If there's a tie, I win. I made a T-shirt that says it. So there's 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that we're watching very closely. Anything that is a Department of Commerce endorsed bill, okay, is legislation that I'm kind of trying to move through the process. And so far, so good on that, by the way. But we have an accelerator bill this year. That's kind of the long and short of that. It's fairly technical, very long bill, but basically what it does is it kind of takes an accelerator program. It puts about $15 million over at OCAST, which is our Center for Science and Innovation, to create kind of a statewide accelerator. You all know, again, the accelerator and incubator world, but there's about 20 accelerators in Houston. There's 2 or 3 in the state of Oklahoma statewide. Now, the good news there is that I'm having a conversation every day with another company with another city, excuse me, that's looking to create an accelerator and incubator so that their entrepreneurs can go through that, get startup cash to accelerate their business so that they don't have to go to Kansas City, Denver, or Houston to get into one of these accelerators. So we're creating a statewide program for that. Department of Commerce will be administering that. It's a endorsed Department of Commerce bill. We're certainly watching managed care. That's a big change for the state of Oklahoma. It's the largest contract that we've ever awarded in the state of Oklahoma is managed care. And so this is on the healthcare side. The contract was awarded to 4 companies. The legislature's got to fund it. There's a lot of conversation about healthcare because again, on the value proposition, right? When I'm driving around an oil and gas executive who wants to move his, 1,000 employees to some city in Oklahoma, they're going to ask about public schools. They're going to ask about healthcare. They're going to ask about quality of life. And so healthcare will be something that will drive a lot of conversation inside of this Capitol over the next few years, particularly because of managed care, to see how it's administered and how it's working over the next few years. That's another big one as well. But for my lieutenant governor office, a lot of it is Department of Commerce legislation. What do we need to do to help businesses hire more people? What do we need to do to recruit more businesses to the state? Talk to me about that, because those are the conversations that I'll have every day, all day long.
Let me ask another question regarding uncertainty in Oklahoma, and that is McGirt. So in the wake of the Supreme Court decision, that created some uncertainty in these leaders' minds. Are you experiencing some of those questions as well?
We are, and Brooke, you said it. It's uncertainty. It's the uncertainty that any business owner will tell you. Uncertainty gets business owners, and certainly gets oil and gas owners very spooked when you don't have a stable system in any way. You all are well aware, again, some of the letters that were sent out to oil and gas companies in Seminole Nation that saying, hey, guess what? You got a 7% gross production tax that you're going to have to pay on top of the Oklahoma 7% gross production tax. And then, of course, General Hunter sent a follow-up letter to that letter. Those are the kind of things that are happening right now that has a lot of people asking a whole lot of questions. I can tell you this, we're working on it daily. Every day, the governor's office, of course, they're the ones kind of leading the effort at an executive level, working with tribes. We are going to need, as General Hunter said in his most recent letter, we are going to need the federal government and Congress to get involved here, and sooner rather than later. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have district courts and courts around the state of Oklahoma that are going to continue, further rule on this issue. So do I want the tribes, our sovereigns, to come together with the state of Oklahoma and come to an agreement on this? Of course I do, but it is going to require the feds to get involved here ultimately. And we're having those conversations almost every day with them. Ryan Leonard is leading that effort for the governor's office, and every day he's working on the issue. But uncertainty continues to rule the day on that issue, and we can't, our business owners across the state can't afford that.
Picking up a question off the chat line along those lines is that the uncertainty around the potential for certain tax treatments to change federally, especially near and dear to our producers here, is the percentage depletion. What would be like in the event that God help us that we lost percentage depletion, that what would there be a state response to try to help especially our smaller producers?
The short answer is yes, David. There absolutely would be a response, probably both legislatively and at the executive branch level as well. This has come up. That specific issue has come up in our cabinet meetings. It's something that is on, unfortunately, to your point, unfortunately, it's on our radar, right? So we're making sure that we know what recourse we are going to follow if that actually did happen. And we would pursue recourse pretty aggressively. I can tell you that.
Well, please share, Matt. We'd like to know what the response was.
Well, we will, and we will, David. The other development there, not specific to that issue, but specific to making sure that we know what's going on, and before it goes on in Washington D.C., the governor did just hire, a new federal, I guess you could say lobbyist, but really we Oklahoma did not have an office in Washington D.C. The Hall of States, a lot of states have offices in Washington D.C., and we have an amazing federal delegation that certainly helps us. But we wanted to have somebody out there. When you travel the state to the south of us, any government employee in that state that travels to Washington, D.C. is mandated to have to go through that office to get meetings set up. And so we just hired a fantastic individual in Washington, D.C. to kind of help us through this, because, there's a lot of money now. Earmarks apparently are coming back. And so it's not just on that issue of, okay, hey, if these dollars are not coming to Oklahoma, then they're going to go to some other state. But on issues specific to what you're talking about, we want to have a relationship, and we would want it to be positive so that we can talk to them about how detrimental that specific issue would be. So I just throw that out there, because those of you all that are traveling to Washington, D.C., if you would like to meet with our office there now, we can help set that up.
Let me say some good things about your new hire.
Okay.
Gungahl, Lapore, and I have known each other for 25 years. She comes from an oil and gas family. The gungahl name, most of our viewers will recognize that name. There's a plaque upstairs in our building with that name on it, and a great Enid family, been active in the oil and gas business for a very long time. So we're going to have her on the show at some point. She's
good.
A fantastic asset for the state. She's worked within the congressional delegation. She knows how DC works, and also she has the outside private sector experience that dovetails very neatly with the governor's mission and your mission. So we look forward to working with her and having her on the show, but that'll be a fantastic opportunity for the state.
Yeah.
On that note, as we sort of approach the bottom of the show, talk to us a little bit about how we, as an employment driver in the state of Oklahoma, can help you attract businesses to the state.
Yeah.
Dave Lenormand and I have a lot of conversations about the passing of the torch from one generation to the next, technology driving Oklahoma's highly specialized oil and gas economy. So how can we be helpful to you attract jobs?
Yeah. This kind of leads into the conversation that I've kind of started having, and I want to have this conversation with you all offline to just kind of brainstorm specifically to this. First off, Brooke, if we are ever talking to, if Scott Mueller, who's going to do an amazing job, by the way, as our Secretary of Commerce, when Scott is pitching an oil and gas company looking to relocate, Scott should have right next to him, literally sitting right next to him, someone from the Petroleum Alliance that is talking to that oil and gas executive about how great it is doing business in Oklahoma. If we're not doing that, we're not doing it right. So I hope moving forward, we're calling you a lot, Brooke, to say, hey, I need someone, give me somebody from the Alliance that I can have in this meeting. And it may not be an oil and gas company. It may just be, again, because we have so many great folks running companies in Oklahoma, it could just be from a 30,000 foot view of, hey, let me give you my experience of doing business in Oklahoma with thousands of employees or hundreds of employees. So that's number one, is just getting you all more engaged when it comes to pitching companies. I think that would be very effective. And number two, I think it is time to have a plan just for, and again, I never mention the state's name, but I will in this instance. We need to have a Texas plan. There's going to be 40 million people in that state by 2040. 40 million. Okay, that tells me something, that there's going to be a lot of those people that are just going to be ready to get out. It's going to become too congested. The quality of life is going to change when you have that many people. The largest alumni associations for OU and OSU are in Dallas. They're cheering for Oklahoma every Saturday in Texas. So I've told our Department of Commerce, I want to have a Department of Commerce employee at every watch party for every football game that's going on. We need to have somebody there. I mean, why would we not? I mean, that's just easy. That it costs very little money to have a Department of Commerce employee and taking materials with them to start a conversation. I think we should be at every chamber luncheon. We should be at every rubber chicken dinner in Texas with someone from the state of Oklahoma that is just developing relationships, because that relationship could turn into 5 years from now, it could turn into something. And so it's a long play for me. As I told you, it's a 10-year plan for me. And if we're going to do this right, I think we should be in Texas every day, not 3 or 4 trips a year, but you know, on literally a daily basis, talking to companies in Texas that love Oklahoma. A lot of them are Oklahomans that want to do more business or partner with Oklahoma. That has to happen. And I've talked to Scott Mueller about this already. You know, we can pull people from all over the world, but I think the best opportunity we have to pull businesses and just people moving is still in that state down there. And so I think the messaging has to move away from, yes, I want to beat them in football. Yes, we're better than them. But we got to be bigger and better than just saying, hey, we're better.
Uh-oh.
Might have run out of bandwidth for the Lieutenant Governor momentarily. We'll see here.
Construction. The construction hit his, well, he's right. What a great addition. I love some of the cabinet choices with Scott Mueller. That's just outstanding. Jennifer Grigsby. They're just loading up people that are here to win for us. I am thrilled about it. I saw you may have saw it this morning where Scott was down with a shovel, down at Goodyear.
You hear me now?
Lawton. We were singing the praises of Scott Mueller. What?
Yeah. Well, sorry about the technical difficulties there. I'm in the state capitol, so that happens sometimes. But yeah, Texas plan, we got to have it. And that is something that I think I would want to partner with the Petroleum Alliance on,
right,
to make sure we're doing that the right way. And as you said, David, Scott Mueller gets this, but I think it's the best opportunity for us. We can recruit people from all over the world, and we'll continue to do that. But Texas is fertile ground for us to be partnering with.
One of the best verticals that we can support is our efforts like through OERB and in conjunction with Petroleum Alliance. We did roughly half of the Oklahoma City public schools STEM labs. We feel like that oil and gas should own STEM, and so we are really pushing, because I think it's a tenet to how we get people to bring businesses here is the continued improvement of our education system, which is improving. I feel like that ship has turned around and is heading the right direction for sure, toward hopefully toward that top 10 target that we've got on everything, like you said. So yeah. I think that's something that we, of course, we're funding a lot of it through our taxes, but
right,
directly even. So, and I think that's been kind of a secret, like no one really knew. You see now the complete pivot away from our branding that we did. We just want to talk about the people of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas business, and that's who we are. I always like to tell the story. The guy 2 doors down from you playing basketball in the front driveway with his kids probably works in the oil and gas business. It's at least 1 in 5, and more than that's affected, of course. So I really feel like that we have the right trajectory. We got to protect our business and don't let made up science and what have you. There's nothing green about windmills, and I'm not going to apologize for complaining about it, because it's not an even playing field. I think we need everything, but the playing field has got to be even.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yeah.
Very positive comments on your discussion about how we reach out to the oil and gas industry, not just wind, trying to get folks across the Red River here. We've talked about the technology drivers. We'll be coordinating with your office when I'm on the road with members in other states just to do CEO contact, and we might come up with a nice target list among us to have a good conversation about. Mr. Chairman, we're sort of at the bottom of the show. Lieutenant Governor, would you like to say anything else? Things that we didn't ask that we should have asked or we should talk about?
No, I mean, for those that want to follow me, I mean, again, I'm on most of the social media platforms. We have a Sunday newsletter that we send out on Sundays. You can sign up for that on our website. Company tours, again, we're happy to come to your facility anytime as well. So, our doors are always open to you all. They always will be. And when you need me, I'll be there. I'll answer that phone call. And it is great to hear what David said. Let's not make it a secret, right? Let's get into elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and tell the story of the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma, and that'll change future generations.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor, for being with us today. We really do appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your fresh voice and your fresh perspective when it comes to Oklahoma's highly specialized economy. Thank you for all the good work that you are doing. Thank you for your leadership. For viewers, I would like to remind everyone that we are going to be hosting a fundraiser for U.S. Senator James Lankford tonight. We hope you'll be able to attend and support a true friend of the industry. Also, our Alliance 2021 events calendar is up, so look for that in highlights on Friday. And then registration is open for 2 outdoor events, one of which Lieutenant Governor mentioned earlier, the Alliance Open Golf Tournament on April 26th, and our Sine Die event on May 5th to celebrate the end of the 2021 Oklahoma legislative session. Information on those events and others can be found at thepetroleumualliance.com, or again, look for the highlights in your mailbox on Friday. So, Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much and everyone who participated today.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next.